What's up guys, Andrew here on my channel GearedInc, where I get to share what I'm passionate about with you, and on my channel that is PC tech, games, and gear. And today we're talking about a subject that is kind of a continuation of a video I made about a month ago called Should You Wait for Coffeelake? Basically, that was before benchmarks, any of the reviews, any of that stuff came out, and we didn't have any really solid numbers. But my point of view then was that if you were going to be building with Coffeelake, you should wait for Coffeelake because it's going to provide better value. But if you want to build with Ryzen, you're totally fine because there's not going to be a significant difference in most situations. All of that's pretty much true. Now, the reason I'm personally staying with AMD into 2018 is because right now I think they've kind of got a better plan as far as where they want to kind of take things. Intel has been forced to kind of react to AMD for the last, year almost, even before Ryzen officially came out. If you think about it, in the last upgrade cycle, they released 4 different CPU SKUs. You had Skylake, then you had Coffeelake, then you had Skylake X, and you had Coffeelake X. And so you're talking about 3 different chipsets. So if you're on the Intel side of things, I'd be pretty frustrated because it's like you drop money into a new system, maybe you're going to the very high, the top tier you possibly can, and then 3 or 4 months later, something new comes out. And, for me being an enthusiast, I'm used to upgrading to a new platform every 12 to 16 months, not every 3 to 4. And so right now, I think that because, especially with this launch, Coffeelake was super rushed. And even if you can get a hands on it, the only 2 SKUs that I personally would purchase for myself would be the 8700K and the i5 8600K, because I believe those offer a competitive value even though they cost more money. Now, I'm not harping on Intel. Literally the title of this video, it says that I'm not an AMD or Intel fanboy. I make purchases based on what I value at the time I buy something. Like I'm sure most people do. I was on Intel for 5 years. Now I'm on AMD because what they offer I value more. What's interesting, and not to harp again on Intel, because let's rewind the clock. When Ryzen came out, you couldn't get a motherboard for like 2 months. The launch was terrible. You had to do a bunch of BIOS updates. I mean, I had one of the situations where I was trying to overclock my RAM. It bricked my motherboard. I had to replace it. So it's one of those things where I'm not calling out anybody specifically, because again, fast forward the clock to when Vega launched, you still can't get those GPUs, and you can blame miners, you can blame everything else. But both companies had an initial MSRP for Coffeelake, and now that price has gone higher if you want to buy it, which obviously kind of frustrating. Vega, same thing. It came out at $400 and $500 and then jumped up $100 if you could even buy it at MSRP. So both of these companies, they've made mistakes, and the blame lies on both parties as far as for what they've done wrong. But the reason that I'm going to be going with AMD into 2018 is because Intel is completely reactionary right now. They needed to get out a CPU before Christmas, and originally that was going to be Coffeelake. But because of all the cores that AMD had to offer with Ryzen 7 and Ryzen 5, they had to push Coffeelake forward. That means that the chipset, by the way, the motherboard chipset, the 370, is not even the official Coffeelake chipset. There's going to be a new one when the official Coffeelake release date is in first quarter of next year. On top of that, if you wanted to do kind of like an upgrade now, Cannon Lake is also supposed to be coming out sometime next year, as early as second or maybe third quarter. So if you're buying in February, you're going to have potentially something better once again with Intel 3 or 4 months down the road. And so it just, to me, it's just a lot of money, a lot of changing hands if you're constantly just trying to be on the cutting edge. Or, if you're wanting to get new features or you're wanting to kind of get a better value, it's frustrating because you buy something and then literally something comes out for almost the same price that's better on the Intel side of things. And it's happening in such a short period of time. So that's one of the biggest reasons I'm going to stay with AMD, because in February or first quarter of next year, we're going to have Ryzen 2. Ryzen 2 is supposed to offer a marked improvement across the boards in instructions per clock, multitasking, and so if it's significant enough to match or beat Intel, or even if it's a little behind again, that's fine if it's an improvement on what I have now. Plus, the AMD platform is currently cheaper, and I should be able to anyway slap a Ryzen 2 into my current motherboard, because that chipset's going to be supported all the way to 2020. Right now, AMD is playing the long game. They're not really hung up on getting the absolute best performance as far as against Intel. It's kind of like, and I use this analogy kind of sparingly, it's kind of like Apple. I'm not an Apple fan. I've never liked the products. I don't like what they have to offer. But Apple, back when Steve Jobs was alive, was always more concerned with just creating the best product they could. Whereas Microsoft has always been obsessed with beating Apple. right now, AMD is kind of just thinking, how can we provide value to the consumer? How can we do better as a company? Whereas Intel is now, how can we get back our market share that AMD stole? How can we get out more products? And it to the detriment, obviously, of everyone who's an Intel fan, because Coffeelake is great, but again, the 2 SKUs that I would buy, you can't even get your hands on, and they're going to be coming out with an official chipset because they had to just basically create this one, which is really a refresh of the 270 chipset just to get the product out to you. So my pick for now, going into 2018, for the reasons I've laid out, is AMD, and that's because what I value. Now, if you can get your hands on an 8700K or an 8600K, do it. It's great. Like that, those cores and that instructions per clock, it's great performance. If you can get it, by all means build it. But if not, don't worry about it. Just build with Ryzen right now. You're still going to be able to do everything you want to do. Performance-wise, it's still going to be really close, and you're going to have an upgrade path more immediately going into next year. So anyway, guys, that's my point of view on this whole situation. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave me a thumbs up. If you didn't, go ahead and leave me a thumbs down. Get subscribed either way, guys. My channel is growing, which I'm super excited about. Thank you for the support of my current subscribers and any future subscribers. I want to hear back from them, whether you agree with me or disagree. I always answer comments, and I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you. We hope to see you next time here on GearedInc.